All right, welcome to the Krueger Show. Hope everybody's having a great September the 12th. It's 9:10 West Coast, 10 minutes after midnight on the East Coast. And welcome to the show. Brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They are in both spots, and they're open in both spots 7 days a week. So you can't miss it. You can't say, well, I went that day, they weren't open. No, they're open every day. They're open every single day from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. They do run out, so get there early, get the brisket chili. It's all amazing. The pulled pork is fantastic as well. The house-made sausages, the barbecue chicken, it's all fantastic. I'm a personal favorite. I love the potato chips cooked in beef fat and the potato salad. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. My wife usually goes with the chicken salad. She'll go with the barbecue chicken over a salad with vinaigrette. Anyway, it's a great spot. Both spots, Corte Madera, Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. And, of course, we are also, even though it doesn't say on there, trust me when I say that we are also brought to you by Better.
There it is.
There it is. Oh, hey, there we go.
We're back, baby.
We're back. Oh, wait, there we go. There we go.
And they are absolutely taking up my real estate. I'm filling the frame here.
Look at that. Better. And we're big fans of Better, and we're doing really, really well with Better. This live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. That's right. Last week of the preseason, I took $10 on a 4-player prop, turned it into 90. I was 8 yards away last week from winning even more than that. So download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners, NINERS, to get the first deposit matched up to $200. And we'll do a better lineup in a bit. But first, Dieter Kurtenbach is here from KMBR and, of course, the San Jose Mercury News. And Hello. The Niners take on the Vikings on Sunday. And Sunday morning in the morning slot.
CBS, Kevin Harlan on the call.
Okay, I like Kevin Harlan. Good guy.
Yeah, so we're blessed. We're blessed with that. I enjoy a good 10 a.m. football game. I'm not doing anything else. You know, like let's do this thing. Let's get up and let's do this thing.
Now, you're a Chicago guy. So even though the 10 a.m., you're used to noon and 3 football, right?
That's
noon
what I grew up on. Yeah, Bears were on at noon or 3.
I'm a West Coast guy, so I'm a 10 and 1.
Right.
The East Coast people are 1 and 4, which always felt like that seems like too late.
I mean, I guess that's good for the religious of us, certain religions at least. But I thought noon was fine. I don't understand the hate for the West Coast way of life, because we can watch Sunday Night Football in its totality and go to bed at a normal hour. We can watch Monday Night Football front to end and go to bed at a normal hour. And you go, oh, well, you got to wake up at 9 a.m. and watch football. The fuck else you want to be doing? Right? Like, you get football from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, and you don't have to change your circadian rhythm. This seems like a win to me, Larry.
I kind of liked Hawaii. When we were in Hawaii, the 10 a.m. game is a morning game. I think does Hawaii juggle back and forth between like Arizona, 2 and 3 hours? Is it 2 and 3 hours or 3?
That sounds right. Yeah, I mean, that would be I think 7 a.m. game in some circumstances.
So this was an 8 a.m. game for a 10 a.m. game, but then the Niners were on a 1:25, was on at 11:25 in the morning. That wasn't bad. The 6 o'clock night game is on at 4. That's not bad. It's over at 7. The one thing I noticed about Hawaii was like, it was almost impossible to stay up to midnight. It just 9 o'clock felt super late. 10 o'clock felt really late. 11 o'clock felt incredible, like middle of the night.
Right.
I mean, if you, it's hard to stay up to midnight in Hawaii. It really is.
That's a great call. I really like that one. There's something about not just circadian rhythm and the sun and the moon, but also just like New York's been asleep for how long? And just how much stuff emanates out of there that makes your day function. Again, I've lived in 3 of the 4 time zones in America. I'll try out Mountain at some point. I've certainly spent time in Mountain. There is nothing like West Coast. I'll hear you on Mountain. An hour later, I can hear you on
saying?
Maybe that's a reasonable compromise. But this 50% of Americans live in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. They have been living wrong this whole time. Apologies to anyone who stayed up late with us, 12:30 in the morning. Like you're living wrong. And I would much rather have to wake up early on occasion to have to catch something than have to constantly fight to stay up late. Because this thing, as soon as this is done, this thing shuts down. I'm not going to.
Are you a night guy or a morning guy?
Well, I have a toddler, so I'm both. But
exactly.
I have long been
without
a night
the toddler,
guy.
You are a night guy.
I was a night guy before the toddler. Now I'm more of a morning guy. I'll take any time that's quiet, though, and I can gauge my caffeine intake throughout the day to function at any hour of any time. I'll wake up for 6 a.m. radio, and I'll be working until 2 a.m. some nights. I'm a broken person, Larry. I think more than anything else, I'm just a broken man.
Interesting day in Santa Clara today. By the way, welcome to everybody in the chat. Raphael 5629er says, "What's up, Larry? What's up, Dieter? What's up, everyone?" And then says, "Like and subscribe, everybody. Please do. Please like and subscribe. If you like, just more people, find the stream in the algorithm." Dieter's stream on Thursday nights has been one of the most popular streams that we do all week. And then, of course, if you hit subscribe and you hit that notification bell, anytime I go live, you'll just get that little ding, Krueger's going live, and you can jump in. And you don't have to miss any of the action. Mitchell and Ness says, Larry's stomping in his Air Force Ones. George Kittle bought me some shoes today. Did I tell you that?
He bought everybody's shoes, Larry. Don't pretend like you and George have a special relationship. George, and I'm taking a little bit of credit for this, right? Because I noted this to him. I said that was kind of a low blow, making fun of some of our media colleagues' shoes. Now, I don't care if he makes fun of mine. I wear clown shoes. I got a size 16, and I like to have a
16. Jeez.
Yeah, and I like to have a
I wear 13. I thought I had big feet.
Well, you know what they say about guys with big feet? Big socks. And
my dad wore 15s.
Yeah,
I have 16s. Wow.
It's honestly been a blessing because I love shoes. And so I would just buy all the shoes if I had a normal shoe size. Luckily, I don't. So I now prioritize foot health. Bill Walton once told me, big man, when the feet go, it all goes. And I have thought about that a lot. And so I have some nasty, I don't care if George makes fun of my shoes, but he was making fun of normal people's, just hardworking people's shoes. And I go, George, you're a multimillionaire making fun of a bunch of middle-class, at best, media members' shoes. Not a good look for you. Next thing you know, they're like, well, George wants to buy everybody's shoes, which creates some journalistic ethical issues that I'll let everyone else sort out there. Buying or receiving gifts from people you're covering. Maybe I'm old school. It doesn't matter. That's for everyone else to decide. George Kittle wasn't going and buying me a 16, so it didn't matter. Are
you bitter because you did not get shoes from George?
Larry, I'm not. I'm going to tell you this flat out. And I really mean this because I've had this conversation now with a couple of people who are like, really? What's going on with these shoes? What's going on with these shoes? Because this has been in the works for a minute. This is a
hot button topic around town.
It's absolutely a hot button. You cannot.
How many pairs did George buy?
He bought shoes for like Jake Hutchinson. He obviously bought them for Grant. He bought them for you. So, I mean, we went right down the line of people who are there every day. No one asked me. That's fine. Legitimately, I would not have accepted them. I think it is.
Do you think? What? Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Do you think less of me for having accepted them?
Yeah, slightly.
Okay, that's good honesty.
I'll be very Larry. I have never held back with you once.
Fucking honesty.
I honestly think less of anyone who takes these shoes because he is a subject that you have to be neutral to talk about. It's not.
I can't be anymore now that I'm wearing those shoes.
Baby, you're accepting gifts. You're accepting gifts. This is why the State Department has these rules. This is why we go to journalism school to understand these rules, because now you're accepting it. Now you are in his good graces. Now you owe him something. Subconsciously, you owe him something. So when George
on some level, isn't this really an NC2A violation?
I mean, clearly, and Jim Harbaugh is going to get another show cause for it. But I would have said no. One, because Air Force Ones are kind of that's not my style personally. If that's your style, no, nothing.
They're very white.
Classic shoe.
It's a white.
I'm
shoe.
also very white, so maybe I shouldn't be wearing those shoes.
they almost look like the type of shoe that would make you be a little taller. You know,
Don't need any
they
help
have
there,
kind of
Larry.
a thick heel.
Yeah. Those are some tall boys. I actually wear shoes that have almost no heel. I wear
Really?
and I'm all about a
Or
zero
the
drop.
inverted heel, like you go down into the ground, kind of a.
Yeah, I need to make sure that my 6'9" frame stands less intimidating, so I come down further. It's the reverse Tom Cruise. That's what I got going on.
Now, okay. I took the shoes, and you know what? I cannot be bought. I cannot be purchased. If Kittle struggles, I will still say it. But
right, but your feet will
I will say this: I do like Kittle, and it makes me like Kittle more. The fact that he bought us all shoes. But here's the one thing about it: I kind of wish we lived in a world where people could just be jerks to one another, and it would be okay.
Right?
You know, I mean, it's like, I guess you could say, George was being kind of a jerk to the media, and as you pointed out, he makes a lot of money and we don't, and he's making fun of our thing. But you know what? Our shoes. But you know what?
We would have moved
on. I miss the world where that was okay.
Well, and this is why I say take a little bit of credit for it, but I'm like, I didn't expect him to like do something. So like clearly it resonated with him to a certain point. But my point was merely like, hey, George, really flaunting the wealth there, right? Oh, we all can't be wearing Ferragamo loafers here, you know? And I just said it like, whatever. You're just like, I didn't take it personal. I don't give a damn. I mean, I know he looked directly at my shoes and he was like, ooh. Because they were legit. They were in a legit.
I felt like he was speaking directly to you, really. Not. I mean, just the rest of us got caught in the crossfire.
Well, and look at how far you came out ahead. You know,
I got a new pair of shoes. Larry's got a new pair of shoes, baby.
Larry, what logo did they put on the tongue of the shoe?
KNBR.
Okay.
I have KNBR shoes.
So did Hutch, and Hutch hasn't worked for KNBR in a year. Now you came back into the cycle. You came back into the cycle. And I
never had 95.7 the game shoes ever.
That's right.
But now I've been back at KNBR for literally 2 weeks, and I have shoes from George Kittle that say KNBR on the tongue.
Company man.
I mean, I'm selling out left and right. I may as well get rid of Sports Larry K on X and just go back to Sports Larry KNBR back in the day.
I mean, I'll say this.
That's how I started that thing.
I'll say Sports Larry KNBR
until I got bounced, and then I had to get rid of the NBR. I want my goddamn NBR back.
Well, you can afford to buy it back now. That's the best part about selling out. It's good business. It's good for the bottom line. I'm over here standing on ethics and trying to make sure my family gets fed, and it's a harrowing journey over here.
I want to know in the chat, do you feel like Dieter's a better person because he said no to the shoes?
No.
Or
it's not about
am I the better person for saying, you know what? Those are nice shoes. Come on over. I'll take those shoes.
It's not about being a better person. It's about ethics and journalism. And Larry, I don't know where that line is anymore, but I still uphold it. I'm an idiot. You know what? I'm happy to wear
Toy Store. Larry, did Kevin get shoes? No, Kevin did not get shoes. He did not get shoes. JW says Larry walking a half mile in another man's shoes.
That's a good one.
There you go. Oh,
I also just don't like Air Force Ones. It's too thick a heel.
How about this one? Will Farhan buy Larry a used Lamborghini for coming back to KNBR? Oh my God, I almost lost it listening to that Farhan soundbite from earlier today. Where he's
I didn't hear the interview. I asked Larry Bear though yesterday what's the status of Farhan's contract, and he was ducking. He was like Neo in the Matrix on that question. And I'm like, that seemed like a pretty straightforward question. How long are your manager and GM under contract? And he's like, can't talk about that. It's like, okay, that's fun.
Gotta go. Starts pointing to the helicopter.
My cell phone's being stolen.
I can't hear. I don't hear. I'm not hearing. I can't hear.
I'm in a tunnel. I'm in the Robin Williams tunnel.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. All right. Let's get into one topic here, and the topic is and then we'll get into our better picks for the week.
Yeah.
Because we definitely want to do that as well. And also, if people want to weigh in the chat, weigh in.
Yeah, make it happen.
Yeah, weigh in.
Blast me for being a goody two shoes, pun intended.
Oh yeah, KB Stores says KB Toy Store says Dieter's not going to lie. Dieter not going to lie. I'm getting jelly vibes.
I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't have accepted him. And
and
you know what, Larry?
Dieter's a man of principle.
And I can't even tell you this. They might be sitting on my workstation at Santa Clara. I didn't go. Wearing cleats indoors, that's preposterous. I would only wear them outdoors during football practice, sir. Monty wears cleats indoors. What do you think? I'm clacking around like the Under Armour commercial? Click, clack.
James Macistad, I love that name. He says shoes should have said the Krug Show on the tongue.
Agreed. It's got you got a great logo. That would have looked sick. I would have been okay if they had the Krug Show on it. This KMBR stuff, they don't need any more promotion.
Larry needs pig in a pickle shoes. There you go. All right, let's
sure
get
you
into
can make that one work.
Yeah, just barbecue sauce all over the outside. Just awesome. All right, we titled the stream "What Could Go Wrong?" In Niners Vikings. The Niners are favored. They looked great. If you go down and if you're looking at the Niners, you say, hey, let's do a quick summary of week 1. Purdy looked great. Man, Jordan Mason was good. Man, that Niner offensive line sure opened holes. Man, the receivers caught a bunch of balls. Man, that defensive line really, really took it to Rodgers, shut down Breece Hall. Man, the linebackers really controlled the run game. Man, Garrett Wilson didn't do jack squat. Man, the Niners kicked a bunch of field goals and still put up 32 against a great defense.
That's right.
And you could get into this week 2 and just be like, Tony the Tiger takes. The Niners are great. They're great. Okay. But we all know it's a week-to-week league in the NFL. And something could go wrong. Any number of things could go wrong on Sunday. If we're looking ahead to Sunday, what potentially could go wrong for the 49ers on Sunday as you would analyze this matchup?
I got 2 spots. We're going right up the spine, and I'm concerned about the defense. I'm concerned specifically about Devondre Campbell. We saw it a little bit in that game. The Jets offense is too poorly coached and too poorly executed by their quarterback to have taken advantage of the opportunities that may or may not have actually been there, but certainly flashed the potential of being problematic. We saw the issue when you go to the linebacker core. Fred Warner was immense, Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame performance. Talked to Patrick Willis about it after the game. He was saying that he's envious of Fred Warner and how he plays linebacker. That man is in the Hall of Fame as a linebacker. So clearly Fred Warner had a very good game. I don't need to tell you that. Just listen to Patrick Willis.
He was the highest graded PFF grade too, whatever that's worth.
And yeah, for whatever that's worth. But I mean, hard to give him anything other than an A+ in my grade book. So how much was he covering up for Devondre Campbell? Watching it back, it was a little bit. Fred was the target of inside zone run after inside zone run, right? You take one linebacker, you uncover another, you let the running back read the gap. And Fred, anytime one of those Jets offensive linemen, be it a center or a guard, was trying to get to the second level to get to Fred, he just jujitsu'd him. You just didn't touch him. It was unbelievable. This man was being blocked at play after play after play, and he never got blocked. He was flying around with a man with his hair on fire. He can continue to do that throughout the rest of the season, and we never think about Devondre Campbell again. But if someone can get a hat on that guy, and I'm not sure the Minnesota Vikings are the team capable of doing that, but they're much better coached with Kevin O'Connell. If you can actually block Fred Warner, now Devondre Campbell has to be the run filler, and my concern beyond that is Kevin O'Connell. Where's he coming from? We're talking the McVay tree. We're talking the Shanahan tree. What is the hallmark of any offense that goes all the way back to Gary Kubiak, goes back to Mike Shanahan? You're going to attack the linebackers. You put the linebackers in conflict. You make their run-pass reads get jarbled and messed up. You fuzzy up the TV screen for them. Campbell has been in the league a long time. Yep. He was at one time an all-pro player. He looked slow and indecisive in the game against the Jets. It wasn't a problem until it is. And I think this week, with an offensive coordinator and Kevin O'Connell, who knows that that's the weak point, with a receiving core that can come over the middle, with a quarterback who's just going to give to his offense whatever Kevin O'Connell tells him to give, and looked like he could execute it against a god-awful Giants team. My concern is number 59 on the defense, just getting taken again and again and again, both in the run game and the pass game. That's where I lie first.
Here's my big concern. My big concern is that week 1 was a big fucking mirage.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's my big concern. And you say, Krug, God, that's overly negative. Let me explain what I'm talking about here.
The Jets suck.
There was one overwhelming part of Monday night, and that is that J.P. Mason got 28 carries and ran for 147 yards. And the Niners totally dominated the time of possession, and they just ran it down the Jets' throat.
Yep.
Okay, it was one great thing, right? The Jets could not stop the Niner run game. Yep. So when you look at that on paper, you say, okay, true. What was the direct impact on the game of Jordan Mason dominating the way he did?
Yeah.
And to me, it was the direct result was that the Niner defensive line barely was on the field at all. Bosa played 48 snaps. That was a full boat, but Floyd played 34. Collins played 37. Yeah. Hargrave played 32. They averaged, whatever it was, 34, 30.
Yeah, that's hardly, that sounds like 3/4 of a football game at best.
Yeah, we're talking about 35, 35, plays a game.
35
I mean, that's 35 snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cincinnati game, I think Bosa might have played 68 snaps.
That's right.
In that Cincinnati game last year. So my question is this. I mean, and I asked Sorensen, I said, well, you got to be thrilled with that. And then also, was this by design? Did the Niners come out and say, you know what? No Drake Jackson and no Yatir Gross-Matos, and we're a little thin up front. Let's play complementary football, run the hell out of it, and save our defensive line, because running it as much as they did, that was the impact. So now here we go this week, and I think the Vikings are they're going to commit to the run more. I don't think the Niners are going to have as much success dominating the time of possession. And I think we're going to see a totally different looking Niner defense if they're forced to play even 15 or 20 more snaps. What do you think?
Well, I think that's a great point, because we didn't actually have to see any of the 49ers defensive line depth. And this is something that we've been concerned about for months now, right? I'll eat some crow. Leonard Floyd played well. I don't know if he was great, but he played well. He did what the 49ers expected him to do. That's one good game in the bank. That's maybe one more than I expected. We got a long way to go, but Leonard Floyd was good. But Leonard Floyd was fresh. You go on the interior. I thought Malik Collins and Javon Hargrave were magnificent. They were fantastic. But how does that go if they're taking 50 snaps or 55 snaps because Minnesota's on the field for 65, 70 snaps? Like, how does that go when you're now pushing them? Because now you're going to Kevin Givens. Now you're going to Jordan Elliott. Now you're getting Sam Aquanu on the field. Robert Beal was less than a negative on Monday Night Football. The depth of this defense.
He didn't play hardly at all. I mean, his snap count.
His snap
Beal
count
only played 6 snaps.
And they were all bad, Larry. I'm telling you right now. I keep an eye out for him because I'm interested in ever seeing something that resonates with me, just in a good or a bad way. And it all resonated bad. You could say blowout game, whatever. Robert Beal gave you nothing. And now, yes, Yetur Gross-Matos looks like he might be in. I don't know what he is. I think it's a win. I think it's a win for the 49ers. And that's one more body, which is a positive. But again, the defensive line depth is questionable at best. And they didn't have to test any of it in week 1. It will probably get tested in week 2. Can I throw another thing at you, Larry?
Please do.
Brian Flores is a crazy man. Now, I don't know about him as a person. Seems like he's not that cool of a guy. But he does a lot of the things that really messed up Brock Purdy last year. You think about Brock Purdy's 2 worst games. You could argue it was Minnesota, and it was certainly the Baltimore Ravens, Mike McDonald's defense. What do those guys do? They throw a lot of dudes on the line of scrimmage, and then you don't know who's coming and who's going. They force you to diagnose chaos at the line of scrimmage as a wide receiver, or as a quarterback, I'm sorry to say. I don't think Minnesota has the defensive personnel Certainly not as the same team they had last year. Certainly not of the Baltimore Ravens of last year. But they got enough guys, right? With a Harrison Smith, with a Van Ginkel. They got Stephon Gilmore for some reason. Like, there's enough guys there that they can execute a chaos game plan at a decent enough level. I need to see Brock Purdy, and I expect that he could do it because I don't think there's anything Brock Purdy can't do at this juncture. But I still need to see him go out there and carve up a defense that is predicated on multiple looks, A, B, C gap fills, just absolute chaos. I haven't seen it yet. It's been a short career for Brock Purdy, but I haven't seen it yet. And that is something that could loom very large come the end of Sunday's game.
People in the chat are saying the obvious ones. Hey, Justin Jefferson didn't play last year, and they still beat the 49ers. Butthead said Aaron Jones killed us in the playoffs last year.
Aaron Jones has had an awesome game against the Giants. I want to be clear about this. The Giants' defense is as bad as their offense, and their offense is abysmal. You
have Dexter Lawrence inside. That's not bad, right?
That's it. Brian Burns was a non-factor in that game. That team looked like they were quitting in week 1, Larry. It was ugly.
The Giants
to watch.
are bad. I mean, the Giants are leaning on Daniel Jones, and they just can't score at all. And that's a big part of it.
Negative aura, as the kids would say, from the Giants right now. But I thought it was actually the offense was abysmal. It's pretty obvious as to why. They don't have a quarterback. At a certain point in the first quarter of that game, Brian Daboll tried to kill his quarterback by just having him run on designed keepers. That was their new offense. We're going to just see if Daniel Jones can go out there and get injured. So that was really fun to watch. But their defense was just as bad, in my estimation. I've watched that game now twice. I don't really know what I can glean from it other than the Giants are absolutely awful. And Minnesota, much like some of these college football teams that go up against, hey, USC is going to play UC Davis. No offense to the Aggies, but the difference. You know how this is going to go. It's just a question of how many points the Trojans or the Beavers or the Ducks are going to beat them by. And that's what it looked like when I was watching Vikings and Giants. It looked like a Big 12 SEC team going up against some twice directional school. Chattanooga versus Tennessee. How do you think it looked? It looked like Vikings and Giants in week 1 of the NFL. That's what it looked like. So what did we really learn about the Vikings? Probably nothing that we couldn't have already surmised before the season started.
This is the part of the show where I focus on the chat and I focus on one person in the chat and follow them through a couple minutes of comments. So we'll start here at 9:34 with a man who calls himself Viking Jerome, because it's a Viking Jerome. He fires off a bunch here. So let's go. He starts with this one. 49ers ain't winning.
Okay.
That's at 9:34. 9:34, 49ers ain't winning. Okay. Viking Jerome wasn't done yet.
I wonder who he leans towards.
Didn't like the Dieter comment about Flores. Viking Jerome comes back at 9:34, firing off another one. Yeah. What? Brian Flores is a cool guy. What's your problem?
Anytime you have to do a press conference where you surround yourself with players on your team to be like, actually, I'm not a bad guy. That's what you do when you're like the disgraced police commissioner.
Bad guy.
I'm not a bad guy.
We've got a minute later.
I think the press conference answered the question on if he's a bad guy or not. The
Viking
T-shirt
Jerome
answers the questions about
comes back with, what a dump ass.
Well,
I think he probably meant dumb.
I do have a dump ass too. So, that's fair. I'll give him that.
But he wasn't done there. Viking Jerome came back with, who's this guy? Leave to Beaver.
I'll take it.
Leave to Beaver.
This guy
he wasn't there. He wasn't done there.
Labatt Blues.
He wasn't done there. Viking Jerome came back with Beaver Cleaver.
Yeah. You wish you looked this good at 36.
Was he done there? Was he done? Is that it?
No.
Wait a second. I think Viking. Yes. So that's the latest.
That
is the latest from Viking Jerome, ladies and gentlemen. We are now
timely
updated.
Reference. Leave it to Beaver. I mean,
just
really in the
zeitgeist.
That show.
Oh, I love
that show. Was literally in black.
I watched
and white,
that show
Larry.
in college all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I had Nick at Night growing up.
Oh,
that was when I was 9. It was an oldie
starring
and a goodie when I was
Hugh
9.
Beaumont, Barbara Billingsley.
Leave it to Beaver. Okay.
Tony Dow.
The moisturizer
and
works.
Jerry
Larry. That's all I hear.
Mathers as the Beaver.
How the hell do you know everybody in the Leave It to Beaver cast? That's
Oh
impressive.
my god! Oh yeah,
That's
it was
wild.
it was a very good show. Very very good show.
No,
I remember
disagreement.
I remember they said they had a jar, and the jar supposedly had $5 worth of pennies in it. They broke the jar. They broke the jar, and somehow they had to replace the money.
Mhm.
And Beeve says to Wally, there was $5 in there. Where are we going to get that kind of loot? It's one of the great lines.
And now you get super chats for $5.
Exactly. Where are we going to get that kind of loot? Leave it to Beaver.
I have a very strong opinion about the penny. I'll save for a different stream.
Okay. Okay, here's another thing that I think I could see happening.
Yeah.
I think there's a very good chance that Bosa and Floyd, who last week went off against Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, could get somewhat shut down by Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. O'Neill's 6'7", 320, long arms. Darrisaw is maybe one of the great young left tackles in the game today. This is an upgrade. And when Nick was talking about how the Vikings are better than the Jets, I almost think he was selfishly speaking directly about his matchup. And, I think there's no doubt that the Vikings offensive tackles are better. And there's a chance that Bosa and Floyd could get stonewalled by this combo. And then what? Then is it Sam Darnold playing pitch and catch with the best receiver in the league? And there's nothing the Niners can do to stop it. Right. To me, that's a concern.
I think it's a very fair concern, given the fact that if you give Sam Darnold time, as we just saw, he's going to deliver an accurate ball, and he'll be able to deliver it down the field as well. This is a guy, Kyle Shanahan resurrected his career. Kevin O'Connell looks at it. Now, it wasn't supposed to be him. It was supposed to be J.J. McCarthy. Now, maybe that transition was going to be a little bit later on down the line. But, hey, it's Sam Darnold now. And if you're thinking, well, what is Sam Darnold? Which is a question I know a lot of Niners fans were asking themselves last year. I think he's Nick Mullins with the bigger arm. That's a pretty good player. That's more than above average as a quarterback, as a starter in this league. There's some pretty dumpy starters.
Way better than Nick Mullins.
How's he
Nick Mullins?
Pardon?
How's he Nick Mullins in your theory? Because I see Mullins as being, it's just kind of there. He's the opposite of Nick Mullins. Mullins is a guy who's got savvy and smarts, and he plays on time. He just doesn't have enough arm. Darnold's like all he's got is enough arm, and he doesn't play on time and consistent.
Well, he looked very on time.
He did last week.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, the Sam Darnold that we once knew is no more. He has risen from the Phoenix ashes under Kyle Shanahan's practice schemes. Like, this is a new quarterback. This is the best version of Sam Darnold, which is never going to be the Sam Darnold that the Jets thought they were getting when they drafted him. But this is a quarterback who will hang out in this gray area of starter 20 to 32 for the next couple of years. He's going to have a really nice year. The same way Gardner Minshew just keeps getting starting jobs, this is the way Sam Darnold is going to operate for the next couple of years. It might be in Minnesota, but he operated inside the offense. They're pushing it a little bit further down the field than obviously they would with Mullins. He can deliver it on time and in location if you give him the time to see the full field. And that's what the Giants provided him last week. Darrisaw and O'Neill and Brandel, their left guard, deserve a lot of credit for that. They were immense in that contest. I think that he is a more than capable quarterback. So when I say he's a Nick Mullins with a bigger arm, I'm just saying that he's going to go out there and he's going to do what Kevin O'Connell told him to do. He's just going to deliver the ball to his first read, maybe his second read on occasion. Jimmy Garoppolo did the same thing, right? You don't have to be the offensive coordinator on the field. You just got to do what you're told. Jared Goff has now made $50 million a year off of this premise alone. It's not that hard when you have a great offensive play caller, when you have a great running back, when you have a great left tackle, when you have a great wide receiver, maybe even two great wide receivers. They'll be able to move the ball. And I'm very interested in where they move the ball to. Do they move it to the outside? Do they keep testing a Diamador Lenore, a Isaac Yiadom, who was hit and miss in the game in the snaps that he got? No one's tested Charvarius Ward yet, so I don't even know if he's good or bad. I mean, Aaron Rodgers legitimately did not throw it to the right.
I think Ward's gonna travel with Jefferson, by the way. I really do.
I don't think they're going to do that because they didn't do it for Garrett Wilson. And I know that's different echelons, but they just said we're going to take this side of the field and we're going to cut it off. And
didn't they do that for DK last year? I think they typically do that for certain bigger receivers. I would love to see Mooney matched up all day, except for when he's in the slot. If he's outside, I'd like Mooney on him.
It's easy enough to do with DK because you never put him in the slot, right? He's always going to be on the outside. And so it's just a question of which is your strong side, which is your weak side. And basically they would be able to flip the defense with ease based on where DK Metcalf was. He was the read for how they set up the defense in that game. Whereas you have Jefferson, he goes into the slot plenty. He's not like CeeDee Lamb or anything, but he'll go into the slot plenty. I think that they just say, hey, we're going to split this thing into threes, and the right third, you don't get. I don't care if it's Justin Jefferson. I don't care if it's Powell. I don't care who the hell's over there on the right side. We're putting Charvarius Ward over there, and that's a no-go zone. It worked out wonderfully for the 49ers against the Jets. I was wondering if they were going to shadow. They didn't. And, okay, Allen Lazard got his. You're not going to lose a game where Allen Lazard is your best receiver. And that's what he was for the Jets the other day. Obviously, more weapons. I think a quarterback who can take advantage of time in a way that Rodgers, at least in his current state, could not on Monday night. I don't think they shadow. I really don't. But, hey, I'm with you. I'd like to see it. I like to see great players against great players. And Justin Jefferson is as good of a test as anybody in the NFL. If Charvarius Ward wants $20 million plus a year, that's the tape he's going to want, shadowing Justin Jefferson.
No question. I also think the Niners tackles are going to be challenged against Greenard and Van Ginkel and the rookie from Bama.
Turner,
they got some guys off the edge that are pretty good. And then you mix in the noise. You mix in the noise of that place, and I think the offensive line, that right there, will make it a significant challenge. All right, let's do this. Let's go to our better lineup here. Let's see. Let me just type it in, and we will get it going here. And what we're going to do, and we should tell everybody, this live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. And I won real money at the end of the preseason. Came so close to winning a lot of real money last week. Very, very close. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. All right. So we've got our Better matchup here, Niners Vikings. Dieter, what player would you like to look at
let's start with the special teams player of the week in the NFC one, Jake the Make Moody.
Jake Moody, there's two different options for Jake Moody, and you can go with 1.5 field goals made, more or less.
Larry, we're taking the over on 1.5 field goals made. They're participation trophies now, I heard somebody saying the other day. When you start at the 30 and you can kick 60-yard field goals with impunity in the modern NFL, you got to get 20 yards, 2 first downs, or 3 points now. Over 1.5. I think we got a market failure that we can take advantage of right here.
First of all, Brock Purdy, this is a gimme. This is an absolute gimme. Show me
what it is. I'm not seeing it.
What for?
I'm not seeing the Brock Purdy. Gimme.
No, wait, but before we get to Brock Purdy,
okay,
let's get that Moody one. I want that Moody one.
Yeah, over 1.5.
I like over 1.5. I mean, first of all, Brock Purdy is consistently driving the 49ers. So, and then they've got a kicker who's got huge range, and they're going to try it from like 60 and in. So they want points, and Shanahan loves to kick field goals, it seems like.
Yes, he does.
So, I mean, more so than, the analytics go against it, but the Niners are not a heavily analytic driven team. So I say for sure, Moody gets 2 field goals with his eyes closed. So let's go more.
I will say this, no team in the NFL went for it on 4th down when they should more than the 49ers last year. So while you say they're not an analytically driven team, I have to agree with that, but the analytics actually love them. Like, they were far and away the best 4th down team. They're just not in 3rd downs all that often, much less 4th.
Well, we just saw them go. We just saw them kick a field goal to go up 2 touchdowns when they could have,
But that game was over at 20. That's because I know, but they could have gone with
the touchdown to go up 3 scores. I didn't understand that call.
Yeah, I think that game was over after the DFF interception, and they were just trying to get it over with,
getting conservative. All right, let's go to
let's see what we got for our starting quarterback here, Mr. Brock Purdy.
Yeah, let's see what Purdy's got. There's 4 different options. You can go 235.5 passing yards, more or less. Passing touchdowns, 1.5, more or less. Rushing yards, 7.5, more or less. And longest pass, 36.5, more or less. I definitely like rushing yards over 7.5. I think Brock Purdy has gotten to that point in his career now where he's going to take what the defense gives you, and at least once or twice a game, the defense is going to give you a run lane. They gave him 1 last week. He ran once for 11 yards. I think that's going to be kind of a low water mark. I think he's a 1, 2, 3, kind of maybe a 3 rush type guy for 12, 15 yards, something like that.
Especially
I like him over.
Legs.
Yeah, I like him.
I
over.
like that.
He's going to go for that. He's showing more aggressiveness as a runner. So,
and he's a good slider, so he can get away with it. I like that too. I talked myself out of it a little bit. I like over 36.5 longest pass in this game, because when you're going up against a crazy chaotic defense, they might bring 8. And if Brock can see that coming and deliver the ball on time and in rhythm, there's no limit except for the end zone as to how long that play can go. He might have an 80-yarder in this game. Now, he might also get
why I really love that? I love it because there's about 5 or 6 different guys on this type of a fast surface.
Kyle Juszczyk had a 36.
Right. Garendo could do it. Cowing could do it.
Totally.
Any of their receivers could do it. Heck, Kittle could do it if he gets down the seam.
And again, you're going up against, Harrison Smith is a hell of a safety still at this age. Crazy for me to say. He had a great game against the Giants. If he's at the line of scrimmage, you got one-on-one on the outside against a washed-up Stephon Gilmore. Like, Debo makes dudes miss. He's not fast. He can't separate from press coverage. You get him in the open field, that's a dangerous sight. He'll make dudes miss. You can just ask Ashton Davis of the Cal Bears and the New York Jets how he feels about Debo Samuel in the open field. So not just that. I mean, a slant can go big on this one. I love 36.5 over in this.
Yeah, let's go with that. You see how I work Kittle in there? It's all because of the shoes.
Look at you.
It's all because of the shoes. Let's look at Kittle's projections.
Sure.
Let's see how I feel about Kittle.
Let's show him some favor.
3.5 receptions, more or less. 48.5 receiving yards, more or less. 21.5 as the longest catch, more or less. Wow. I don't know. I
don't know about any of those.
I don't like those. That 48.5 seems high. I would say under.
I mean, Cameron Bynum is the other safety, right? You're thinking linebackers, you're thinking Purdy. Safety. Yeah, that's tough. I think this is a game where you're playing on the outside of the field as opposed to over the middle. And ironically, I think the Vikings are going to go the other way around. Because he's such a nice guy who's helping out the local media, I'm going to pass on all of these, Larry.
I'm going to go more than 3.5 receptions for Kittle. That's my guy, Kittle.
Okay. No, I'll tell you what, Larry.
If I start calling him George, that's when you
George.
know I'm totally.
I think you have to start calling him Sir now because he's bought you something. He's your sugar daddy.
How do you feel about people that use the first name all the time? I mean, that's
first name all the time for what?
Just for Larry. Players. When they're talking about players and they're using first names.
Oh, I mean, I don't like it on like game broadcasts or anything, but like I will never refer to a coach as coach. I call him Kyle. I'll call him George. Like these
I call Kyle as well. He's not my coach.
He's not my coach, and like that's not a formal title. You're not the president. You're not senator.
I know, but it's funny. Certain guys, like Al Davis. A lot of people called Al Davis coach.
Yeah, but then that became tongue in cheek.
But I mean, coach is also kind of like a long term. It's like guys who have been coaches forever. Like if you saw, if all of a sudden is Bobby Bowden still with us? Not really, huh?
No, I believe Bobby. Okay, I actually don't know if that's true. Let me look
if Bobby Bowden walked in the room and he sat down, I'd be like, Coach. I wouldn't be like Bobby.
Yeah,
I'd
he
call
died
him
in
coach.
2001 or 2021.
Yeah, I'd call Bobby Bowden coach.
I'd call him a ghost because he's been dead for 3 years. But there's a certain like a retired coach,
But-
where he's just a civilian. I'll give him that respect. If Nick Saban walked in the room, I'd call him coach.
Coach,
He's
yeah,
a
come on, coach,
retired
sit
coach.
down, please.
But if
Bill
I'm
Belichick
working-
sits down, I'm not calling him Bill. I'm calling him coach.
No, but if you're of
It's a
equal
term of
footing,
endearment.
now it's a term of endearment. But if we are in an environment in which they're at a dais, I'm not going to treat you as some sort of sports deity. This is what made me so sick to my stomach about you got to call me Coach Prime. I will call you Dion, sir.
It reminds me of the Curb Your Enthusiasm. Did you steal my paper? Larry, I'm a doctor. But did you steal my newspaper? Larry, I'm a doctor. You stole my paper. Larry, I'm a doctor. One of the most epic scenes of all time.
That's an all-timer.
All time.
Yeah, I'm not into calling men who are currently in the position of being a coach. That's where I'm at. No one is better. No one is worse. They don't call me columnist.
Let's look at columnist. No, that would be strange. How about Ayuk? Let's look at Ayuk. Let's take a look at Ayuk.
That's a good one. He's up there.
I think Ayuk looks not very good right now. 5.5 receptions. I would go under. 53.5 receiving yards. I would probably go under. I think the best one that has a chance of going over is the longest catch.
And that's a lot of yards.
That is 25-yard reception.
What was Kittle's at 21.5? I mean, that's 3 extra yards. How about Debo over longest reception?
Yeah, I don't like those Ayuks. Let's look at Debo. Debo's longest catch is 20.5 yards.
Take that.
But it could be a run.
He
does a lot of end arounds.
Semantics. Do you think McCaffrey plays?
No.
Either do I.
No, I don't. I don't play McCaffrey until I lose.
I don't play him on turf.
I'm rolling without McCaffrey unless I lose.
I'd bring him back for like the Patriots and I ease him in. Now, I will say this. We're
trying to trade him in my fantasy league, by the way.
We're both Garendo. Good luck with that. We're both Garendo guys. We both see it. We can project it in our minds. But also,
and by the way, if you're like thinking that we're talking about like, some band or something, no, we're Garendo. It's not Menudo. It's Garendo.
Isaac Garendo. We're both
Isaac
big
Garendo.
fans of
the big Isaac
fourth round pick out of Louisville. Just because one cut go, perfect outside zone back, got that.
Especially on the fast carpet, I like him.
Great breakaway speed. They're going to need him, right? Like if you're an NFL running back, you're spending time in the blue tent whether you want to or not. You're running into mean, vicious men who are trying to inflict pain. Like 28 carries, short week. I'm not saying that Jordan Mason isn't going to be able to do it again. I'm just saying that there is a toll to pay with that kind of a workload. And at some point, it's going to take the car off the road, even for a series. And so who's the backup? It's Isaac Garendo. They're going to need to see what he's got. I want to see him get peppered in here a little bit. Yeah. If they're in a situation where they got an advantage, take a series off or something and give Isaac Garendo some run so that we know if you got something or not, or if you need to call up Keyshawn Vaughn, or, I guess worst case scenario, you rush
Patrick Taylor,
Christian McCaffrey back. Yeah, Patrick Taylor.
You also got Patrick Taylor, who I thought looked good against the Raiders in the third preseason game. Give me Sam Darnold here. Let me look at the Darnold thing. He's got two different things, or he's got a bunch here. You can go passing yards, 275. You can go interceptions, 1.5. I think I like that. Two picks
over.
I like 2 picks. He threw one last week and they kicked ass. He had think about it. Last week he had no pressure on him at all. They led the entire way. They still threw a pick. The Niners have a terrific secondary and a big pass rush.
I think
there's 2 picks. I think 2 picks.
I think that's fair, but you're also now requiring a bunch of defenders to catch the football. And that's a dangerous game.
That's true.
You need to do it once.
Maybe Jair Brown could do it.
Jair Brown could do it, but like think about Mooney Ward in that game. They didn't test him the entire contest. Tyrod Taylor comes in and goes, "I'll throw it to the right," and immediately puts one right into his hands and he drops it. Like there's a reason some of these guys have been playing defense since they were in high school. They ain't got the mitts. And I always feel a little bit wary with anything that requires 2. Right? That's where I'm at. 2 intercept. I can believe that he'll throw 5 interceptable passes. That doesn't mean they're getting intercepted.
Well, which one do you like? The other one I kind of like is I like under 3.5 rushing attempts.
I like that
less.
too.
I don't think Sam Darnold's going to take off and run against this hard-hitting defense 4 times in the game. No.
I mean, that'd be a huge win for the Niners if it was more. I don't see him. That's not something they're asking him to do, clearly. And it's not something that he's ever really shown an affinity for. And you're just trying to execute the offense. I'd take the under on 3.5. This is weird. This is all very weird. I'm just looking at it, Larry. It's weird. I don't like any of it, but I do think you're right on the 3.5.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what we got. We got Moody, 1.5 field goals made. We're going more.
Yeah.
Purdy, 36.5 longest pass. We're going more. Kittle over 3.5 receptions, so he's got to have 4. Darnold under 3.5 rush attempts, so he's got to have 3 or less. All right, I like that. Should we add more? Or do you want to? We'll roll with that. Let's roll with that.
Let's roll with that. Four's a nice.
And number. Let's wager.
What about $5? How are we going to get that kind of loot?
Well, yeah. Let's go. We're going to go $5. Why don't we go 10? We'll go 5.
You can do whatever you want, Larry. I just
we'll go $10. We'll go $10. We're going to roll it all. We're going 10. 10 to win 90. All right, there you go. This live stream sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. And hopefully we just did. Download the app below.
Real money now.
Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get the first deposit matched up to $200. All right. We're having a good time on a Thursday night. We're not going to go all night long because I got an early morning, but I do have a couple more that I want to throw Dieter's way. Here is topic number 2. What unit of the 49ers that played really well in week 1 do you think is most likely to backslide in week 2?
Defensive line, for all the reasons that you've mentioned, all the reasons that I've mentioned. I think that there is a fragility to that defensive line that was not exploited at all by the Jets, and that can be very well exploited by a well-coached Vikings team. If I wanted to go one step further, I'm a little bit concerned about the offensive line, right? If we just go left to right, Trent Williams, what incredible. Like, I don't know how he does it. I don't care to think about it because it makes me feel bad about myself. He's just one of one, as good as there's ever been. You then go to Aaron Banks. I thought it was an up and down game, really. I thought that the ups were really up and really impressive, but there were some downs that were notable. I'm going to skip over Jake Brendel for a second. We're going to go to Dominic Pooney. I might have heard Brian Baldinger suggest that Pooney played a flawless game. I would suggest that Brian Baldinger watch the actual game, because while Pooney was awesome and immense and fantastic and like, wow, what a debut performance from a rookie, he's really good at zone left. He's pretty average at zone right. Now, by the way, for a rookie in his first NFL game, this is all champagne problems. But you know that the Vikings are looking at that, and they're saying, force this guy to go right because we might be able to get him. And you saw the Jets, as the game progressed, try new stuff against him. Again, respect to a rookie being able to go out there and force a defense to adjust to him in game 1. Go to the right tackle. Colton McKivitz is a good run blocker. He gives a lot of effort. He had a bunch of penalties in this game, and his pass pro is still extremely suspect. Here's my big question mark. Jake Brendel was atrocious, legitimately awful. And I don't throw those words around lightly. This is not some hyperbolic thing. I'm going to give deference, even though I'm not getting shoes from them, to offensive linemen, because I don't know what the coverage, the protections are. I don't know the play call through and through. So when something gets messed up, I don't want to necessarily just go in and say, this guy sucks, because he might have been asked to do something and then the defense goes around him, right? He's not looking in a gap because he was never told to look into the gap. That said, I can notice when you have hat on a hat, zone left, zone right, basic stuff, and especially in pass protection, basic stuff. Jake Brendel had one good pass protection snap in the entire goddamn game, Larry. He had 16 true pro pass sets per PFF. I counted 15. And he had one good set. Quentin Williams was throwing him around like a rag doll. Now, Quentin Williams. Van Ginkel isn't that guy. Turner has a lot of talent. He's not sliding inside. Jihad Ward is not that kind of player. The Vikings defensive line might not be able to take advantage. But I'm telling you right now, Brian Flores is just licking his chops, waiting to throw dudes into the A gap to make Jake Brendel look like a fool again, because he looked awful on Monday Night Football. Absolutely awful on Monday Night Football. And we got a real issue at center for the 49ers, to the point where Chris Foerster wouldn't even talk about it in the press conference today. He just had to say, we all need to get better. That's him looking out for his guy, because Jake Brendel has been a consummate professional, and he does have to do the protections, and he does a very good job at that, unless it's the Super Bowl, apparently. But he was so bad, he was benchable after one game. And I know at Brian Flores' chaos defense, they're going to throw a ton of stuff into the A gap. They might even get involved in the B gap, just trying to mess up some of these protections. Brendel was awful, and I don't have a lot of confidence it's going to get any better. That's a big concern for me. Offensive line might backslide because 64 can't hold his weight.
Yeah, I'll say this, and I'm not for sacred cows. I'm for play the best guy.
Totally.
I believe that the NFL is the ultimate meritocracy, and I believe in it in its purest form.
Unless you're Deshaun Watson.
I don't really believe in money plays. Fuck that. No, the best player plays. If you make decisions, you pay the wrong guys, that's on you. Right. I'm the coach. You're not going to make your coach play worse guys because you, as the general manager, signed them to bad contracts. I'm not referring to Lynch in this situation. I'm just speaking in generalities. But my thought on the Niners is that at this position, if I just, forget what I know and just go with what I see, I really believe the Niners have royally effed up their depth chart at center in the worst way imaginable. And when I say that, I mean Drake Nugent is on the practice squad. He's their best center. Nick Zakelj is the second string guy. He should be the second string guy. And Brendel's the starter, and he should be the third string guy. And, I know Brendel is smart, and I know Brendel has more experience, and I know he's a guy who's a Pro Bowl alternate, but man, his play dropped dramatically last year. And I have not seen him look all that impressive this summer. I like Nugent more. I think Nugent has a stronger upper body and a better ability to anchor against big, strong guys, even though he's a tad shorter.
It's still questionable on his anchor is still questionable. Let's be clear about that with the Nuge. His anchor is still a problem for him, and that's why they want to keep him on the practice squad. But it's better than Brendel's, who hasn't. You can't divide by zero.
Quite a bit better than Brendel, and I like it better than Zakelj. Now Zakelj, I like Zakelj as a guy. He's a good guy, but I think Nugent is their best center. I really believe that. I'm not saying that to hot takes or nothing, dude. How I would not say that if I didn't believe it. I think Nugent is their best center, and I think he should start. My concern would be the defensive line as well for the Niners, just because I think the lack of depth is a major problem, and I think that it was totally a non-factor in week one. And for that reason, I would have a run-heavy, dominate the clock, Garendo, Patrick Taylor, JP Mason trio, and just have a 60-40 run pass. If I can go 65-35 run pass, I want a heavy run dose. I want to play complementary football. I want to protect my defense for another week or two until I can get Yatir Gross-Matos back and some of the depth that I have there. So my big concern is the defense. Let's jump to two last topics. The 49ers, finish this sentence. The 49ers will win on Sunday in Minneapolis because of what? What's the factor that's going to make the Niners beat the Vikings on Sunday?
They have the better quarterback. They have the better quarterback. And if you want to say, okay, they got Jones and they got these good offensive linemen, that's fine. I think that the Vikings might be able to run the ball. I really do, because Fred actually gets blocked. And now you got some guys who aren't in a position to bring down Aaron Jones. Not bringing down Aaron Jones. Breece Hall got stuffed. Maybe it happens 2 weeks in a row. Maybe it doesn't. I don't. I think it had a lot more to do with the Jets than it did about the 49ers and why that run game didn't work on Monday night. You're also getting on a plane on a short week, so, legs are going to be a little bit shot comparatively to what you would expect or want. It's going to come down to who can make the big plays in situational football, right? It's going to come down to who can deliver the ball on time, on target, past the sticks on third down. It's going to come down to the red zone sort of play. This is a game that has a 6-point line. I don't like that number. That thing stinks. It absolutely stinks. I'm not saying the Niners don't win. I'm not saying the Niners don't cover. I'm just saying I wouldn't put my own $5. I wouldn't put my loot on it. And this is a head coach and a quarterback league. I think the world of Kevin O'Connor. I think that he's a hell of an offensive coordinator, a hell of a head coach, and that he'll make it work with whomever's in the backfield for him. And he obviously has a brilliant wide receiver and a really good running back and a really good left. They got the pieces to make this game interesting, to be sure. But Brock Purdy is really, really good, and he's really, really good at the things that you need to be really, really good at to win a game that's probably going to be hairier than Las Vegas or wherever the hell these sportsbook black boxes exist. I think that it's going to be as simple as Brock is the better quarterback, and while the stat line might not look incredible, he might not have 400-something yards or 2-3 touchdowns and no interceptions. He'll make the plays when they need to be made, perhaps even, as we noted, with his legs, right? On a third down, nothing's there. You boot it out to the right. Kittle's covered. Debo can't separate. Ayuk's coming across, and they threw a double team at him. That's where the safety goes in. What are you going to do? Run it for 7. Run it for 7, slide, get those chains moving. I have all the faith in the world that Brock Purdy can do that, and I don't have the faith, even though I do think Sam Darnold's a hell of a quarterback here and that he can do things that he's never done in his career before. I don't have that faith in Sam Darnold because on a third down and long, when you have to move the chains because it's a big drive and the Niners have gotten your number the first two plays or the first 5, whatever, and you got to make a play on third and long, and you got Nick Bosa pinning his ears back coming for you, and you got everybody they're coming for you. And you're going to have to make a decision and get that ball out in 2.5 seconds. I don't trust Sam Darnold to do it in the big moments. And I do trust Brock Purdy to make the right decisions in those moments.
Yeah. I'll piggyback to Purdy. I mean, Purdy's 18-4 now in the regular season. He processes as well as almost any quarterback in pro football right now at the line of scrimmage. He consistently gets the ball out on time with accuracy. He hit 6 different receivers in week 1. The Niners scored on 8 straight possessions against a really good defense.
That's right.
And he ran once for the 11 yards. So I would say Brock Purdy's the reason on offense. The reason on defense to me is Jerome Hargrove. Javon Hargrave and Malik Collins
Vikings
going
Jerome
up against
Hargrove.
Blake Brandel, Garrett Bradbury, and Ed Ingram. I think that's a major advantage for the Niners. I really love what I've seen out of the Niners in the interior.
Yeah.
I don't think it's accidental. I like Collins and Elliott. Those additions in the middle gave him 2 athletic guys. Collins is really good against the run and pass. Elliott had a very good. PFF graded him out very highly in week 1.
I disagreed with that one, but maybe I'm holding on to priors.
Yeah, I like that matchup inside. To me, Hargrave doesn't look quite as smiley as last year, which is a good thing. He seems kind of like a little bit more gruff, a little bit more angry. He didn't have a very good year.
He had the explosion. I think that we forget how impressive Hargrave was for the first 6-7 weeks of last year. He was a wrecking crew. And I think back to the game against Jacksonville after the bye week, he was a wrecking crew. He had some really, really good, like defensive MVP caliber games for the 49ers in that contest. Not like overall, but like he was the MVP of the defense. And the hamstrings went, and he just didn't have the get off. And he didn't have it at all. And even the first half of the Super Bowl, he's feeling fresh, he's feeling light, and he's pounding. He's just he's splitting gaps. He's making things happen. He's chaos personified. In the second half, hamstrings, I don't know what happened, but he just didn't have the same explosion. He has the explosion right now. And the good thing is he also has a guy in Collins, who you mentioned, who has the ability to take on some double teams. It's something the Niners haven't had in a long time. I mean, we're going back DJ Jones and DeForest Buckner was the last time they had somebody in the middle who could reasonably take on a double team, and that was Buckner. And Collins and Buckner, I mean, you look at them, it doesn't compute how they play the same position, but Collins he's got that sneaky dad strength going on where when he gets his hands on you, you go flying, and it doesn't have to make any sense. It might not be physically possible, but it operates on the football field. I'm not as sold on the depth there. I like Givens as the backup. I'm not sold on Elliott. Maybe I'll eat my words at the end of this game.
Speaking of, did you say dad? What did you say, dad?
Dad strength.
Dad strength. Viking Jerome is back. Speaking of dad strength, he said Niners defense didn't even get a sack last season.
It's factual.
And then Viking Jerome is back again. Yeah. He's got more in here. Where is he? There he is. He said Aaron Jones will run for over 100 yards against the Niners. So Viking Jerome. KB Toy Store says Jerome is coming in spicy, Larry. Yeah. Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit a couple supers, and then we'll hit our final topic of the night. We got this one from Giant Stink. Sorry, I know this is a Niners show. Just wanted to share that the Giants absolutely stink. Doval has to go. Stranded base runners. I just can't with this team.
Yeah. Why are you still watching?
I do have one giant thing for you, Giant Stink. Stick around to the end. Kyle McKiernan says, Larry, wearing Kittle's shoes. Hey, George, you had a drop ball and a fumble during today's game. Looks like you got a shit to work on during practice. LOL. Yeah, I'm going to attack him while I'm wearing his shoes.
Please, you know what? Legitimately, I'm getting on the high horse, and you can legitimately make fun of me for this. But if someone wears those fucking shoes to a 49ers practice or a game, I'm going to chew them out. Like,
Grant's going to wear them tomorrow. No, you're not going to chew.
It's good that I'm not there, Larry, because I don't show up on Fridays.
You don't. Half Dead says Larry seems like a New Balance guy. Oh, them's fighting words, man. Them's fighting
New Balances are cool again, Larry. Not that I should know anything about that.
Are they? My dad used to wear them. KB Toys Store says Larry is now officially #Team Kittle.
We're all Team Kittle. He's great. He's fantastic. He's
Kev
so good.
Throwing in there. It says jelly vibes on your comments before. Monty says Dieter the type to offer to pay for extra sauces at Chick-fil-A.
Don't use this. What does that mean? What does that even mean?
I think he's basically saying that you're like too ethical. You're like too ethical.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
you're by the book. You're really by the book.
You should see how untrue that is in any realm other than professional.
Teddy Shue says trade Josh Dobbs to Miami for a pick. Did Tua go down tonight?
Yeah, he took a really bad hit to the head. That's like his 5th concussion. It was pretty bad.
By the way, how easy was that tonight? Kevin and I were all over Buffalo. Buffalo was a dog tonight.
Yeah.
How's Buffalo? Dude, I mean, seriously, do the odds makers not know? Buffalo's a much better football team than the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Especially now that Christian Wilkins left for the Raiders. That's a major lead. That's a major foundation piece that they just walked out the door. I mean, you got to account for that.
I love Mike McDaniel. I've spent a lot of time talking to Mike McDaniel. I learned a lot of football from Mike McDaniel. I'm very appreciative. I think he's as smart a offensive mind as there is in the league. And I think that he will only be handling the offense for a new team next year because this Dolphins situation reeks to high heaven. There's something rotten. And by the way, all you needed to know about how little faith they had in the Hawaiian Jimmy Garoppolo when they gave him $55 million a year is they also paid 2 $20 million receivers. And, it's just doesn't make any sense. Didn't put any money into that defense, and it shows.
They let a damn good player walk out the door for sure. Jedi says clowns like the Jets fans who came in here last week. LK has a show to put on. Reality is we're going to destroy these clown-ass Vikings. This talk is just filler. I don't know. I mean,
Jedi sounds like your talk is just filler too, buddy. I mean, it goes both ways.
I think it's a close game. I think Minnesota's a better team than you think.
Yeah,
I think
you put a gun to my head. You put a gun to my head. I'm saying take the Vikings +6.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. Anthony Catania, who, by the way, is one of our sponsors,
Yep.
our show is brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Call this Anthony Catania right here at 831-521-5264 for all your sports cards and collectible needs. And he says Bosa is due for a big game. This might be the week. What do you think?
It would only happen against O'Neal. I don't think that he's going to have a big game against Christian Darrisaw on the left side. He's as good as it gets.
Yeah, Darrisaw is a monster. Jerry Schetzel says, "Hey guys, love y'all. Trey Lance to Miami."
Mike McDaniel's too smart to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Trey Lance is not going to have an NFL job next year. He'll be on a practice squad somewhere.
Trey's gonna have to battle. He's gonna have to battle, and he's gonna have to be impressive in the preseason. He's gonna have to, win a job.
He's the
somehow.
number 3 for the Cowboys. I mean, like, what are we doing here? Pretending as if that's somebody who can help. I mean, it's just.
I'll say this.
I like Skylar Thompson.
If I could, if there was if my quarterback went down, I'd call Jacksonville for Mac Jones before I'd call Dallas for Trey, because Trey needs tutelage. Mac's ready to go. Now, you might not like Mac, but if you put Mac, like some of these teams, like the Dolphins, the Niners, the Eagles, some of these teams that have the weapons, and you don't need the quarterback to be super dynamic, just get the ball out on time in rhythm. I think Mac Jones could do that. I think that's why Shanahan wanted him originally. If he did, they'd spend an awful lot of time denying it. But man, I do, watching Mac Jones operate, I think that he absolutely could operate.
But like, system. This is a good opportunity for me to workshop here a theory that I've been working on. So when we talk about like positional hierarchy, right? It's quarterback, left tackle, defensive end. Like those are the big 3. Now I think everyone's saying, oh, wide receiver is one of those, or shutdown corner is one of those now. And then maybe even Mike linebacker. If you have a great player like Fred Warner, you want these guys, right tackle as well. Backup quarterback needs to be above like running back and strong safety and, second defensive tackle. Backup quarterback is now, I think, a premier position. If I'm building a team and I get to have my druthers on the hierarchy, I'm not going very far into my fantasy draft, not fantasy football, like the Madden fantasy draft, without taking a good backup quarterback. Because back-to-back years, we've had record amounts of quarterbacks who play. And you look at a team like Miami, they didn't take backup quarterback as seriously as they probably should. They're going to go with Skylar Thompson, and their season's cooked. You look at the team like the Packers are a perfect example. They trade for Malik Willis a couple of days before the season starts. Guess what? You got to carry us for 6 weeks now while we have Super Bowl playoff aspirations, and we might be cooked because we don't have a backup quarterback behind Jordan Love of any caliber. And by the time Jordan Love comes back, what's he going to be playing for? Every game they're going to be playing for their life, and that's the best case scenario. So we've talked about this a lot in the preseason, Larry. Like, we didn't feel comfortable with where the Niners were at with their backup quarterback, and understanding that you can't just have 2 or 3 high caliber starters on your roster. There's only so many to go around. But man, like, where would the Vikings be? They draft JJ McCarthy. They might have handed him the job out of camp. They might not have. Doesn't matter. He gets injured. You have Sam Darnold as your backup. And now you're fine. Everything that you wanted this season is still in front of you because you took the backup quarterback position very seriously. It's a comfortable place to be when you have a rookie, so you can spend that money. But man, like, we're talking, trade for Josh Dobbs, trade for Trey Lance. That ain't going to help you. That's no different. You might as well go with the guy who at least knows your system today, because they all suck. And I think that, this is where I'm going to. Like, I think that we need to start treating backup quarterback like a very serious thing. I would care about backup quarterback before I cared about a lot of other starting positions in the NFL, because of the importance of that spot and how catastrophic it can be if you have to go to a backup.
And I'll say this, I'd always be on the lookout for, quarterbacks, because the bottom line is nobody knows, all these guys were great players in college, wherever they played. And nobody knows which of them are going to be able to transition to the pros and which of them are going to be backups and which of them will have no chance at all. But every preseason we get 3 games to look at these guys, and sometimes there's a number of guys that look pretty good.
Yeah.
I would just be on the lookout for anybody who shows anything at all. I thought Austin Reed looked good in the Bears camp. And he made the team, or he made the practice squad. So I would definitely be looking around. If I were a team, I would have, if you're a real good scout, I think you should have located that Tanner Mordecai would be a nice backup.
Well, Larry,
we'll see where it goes.
Now we're in a situation where there are some teams, 2 has to go on IR. You don't think that, the Dolphins are going to be scouring all the practice squads? Tanner Mordecai might be gone. You can sign anyone you want off the practice
I think if a guy like that, to me, I think it's more likely that you might trade Josh Dobbs in a 7th to Miami for a 6th or something like that. Something that would give Miami, or not necessarily Miami, it could be anybody.
I get where you're at.
I could see Dobbs. being the guy. All right, let's get to the final topic of the night. And CMC is the one we buried till the end here. We somewhat buried the lead. He did practice today in a limited fashion. I thought he moved around pretty naturally. I don't expect him to go.
No.
On Sunday. I think they're going to run it back with Mason. Okay, so here's the question. How concerned are you about Christian? And what would be, if you were Shanahan, or if Shanahan and Lynch came to you and said, Dieter, you're pretty, you're pretty well thought out, and you watch us and we've listened to you before. What do you think? What's your plan for CMC for the year? What is the best plan? How concerned are you? Do you play him this week? What's your CMC plan? What's the best CMC plan? Go ahead.
Well, first off, my plan and the best plan are always going to be one and the same, Larry. You know that. But
well, not necessarily. You could feel like, hey, this is the best plan, but I personally believe something else. I mean,
that's fair. That's fair. You know what? That's a great counterpoint. I'll take the L on that one. Let's go to my level of concern. I don't think there's going to be a week this entire season where we're not talking about Christian McCaffrey's calf. I think that this is just going to be defined. Both, right? Because one's connected to the other, and now they're both a problem. And I'm getting flashbacks to the 2019 NBA Finals with Kevin Durant. I'm getting flashbacks to last year with Dre Greenlaw, where it was just this thing, and eventually it just went. And I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but now that I've had some run in handling day-to-day TikTok, not the app, the media term, of Achilles and calf injuries, this isn't something that just goes away. This is something that has to be managed in perpetuity. And maybe during an off season, you can get it right. But once an NFL season starts, you don't get healthy. You just manage injuries better. And I'm really concerned about this one. And the best case scenario is we talk about it for 18 weeks and nothing happens. That's the best case scenario. And that's a very viable option. But the last thing you want to do if you're the 49ers is push this thing before it is just beyond a reasonable doubt. You got to play him. And right now there's reasonable doubt. He needs to be practicing in full an entire week to feel comfortable with it. Because if there's one thing I know, and this is with any soft tissue injury, you don't know how hard it can go until you're actually on the field running for your life against men who want to murder you, right? Nothing can simulate game speed, right? Preseason doesn't even do it. You're on a practice field. They're not touching Christian McCaffrey. They're not even running that hard. They're just kind of floating out on a practice field, especially in season. And with the way that they did training camp, they were floating then too. You won't know if you're Christian McCaffrey, if that calf is 100% or 90, whatever it needs to be. And you won't know if that Achilles is going to go or not because of that calf injury until you are on the field and it is fight or flight. And that is a very dangerous proposition because the threat isn't, he might be out 3 or 4 weeks with this injury if it goes bad. This is not just he'll be out for the rest of the year. This is he'll never be the same player again in all likelihood. And you now have a contract for a couple more years with Christian McCaffrey. You need to play this thing safer than safe. The plan would be you don't play him on this AstroTurf nonsense that they play on. I don't know what the turf is like in Minnesota. I don't know what the turf is like at SoFi Stadium. I just know that it's turf and not grass, and I'm not willing to risk it, not at this juncture in the season, not with what I saw from Jordan Mason in week 1. And even if you have to go to Garendo and Patrick Taylor or, even get Keyshawn Vaughn off the practice squad, I'll suffer through that for a game or two. I do not rush Christian McCaffrey back under any circumstances because there's about 3 or 4 games this season that you absolutely 100% need Christian McCaffrey, and everything else he's just gravy for. And so if I'm saying best case scenario, McCaffrey actually is fine, the most conservative path is you bring him back September 29th at home against the Patriots. You give him 25, 30% of the snaps. It's still Mason's backfield. You use him like a gadget player. And then the next week, you ramp him up a little bit more against an Arizona defense that won't be able to put a hand on him because they're awful on defense. And then you're feeling a lot better Thursday night football against Seattle after that, followed by Kansas City and Dallas. You're going to need them for Kansas City. You're going to need them against Dallas. Whatever you think of the Dallas Cowboys, that's a big game. That's a statement game. National TV. You need him for that game. You need him when you play at Green Bay in week 12, no matter what's going on with Green Bay. You need him when you go to Buffalo in week 13. You need him for Miami in week 16, though I don't know what's going on there. You definitely need him week 17 against Detroit. And you might need him in week 18 against Arizona because you might need that game. You got to play it safe, and you don't need him against the Vikings, and you don't need him against the Rams, even though it's a division game and a rivalry. You don't need him. You don't need him in September. You ease him in at the end of the month on natural field grass, and you figure it out from there. But man, to say that I'm concerned is probably an understatement. This is something that I think is going to define the season, and the hope is it only defines it in a level of annoyance and not in a level of catastrophe.
Yeah, I'm very concerned as well. I mean, last year they deferred to Christian and they let him call his shots, and he called his own number all year. Yep. And he almost won the MVP, and they went to the Super Bowl, and then they lost the Super Bowl, and he fumbled in the Super Bowl, and he wasn't 100% in my mind because of the wear and tear.
I'm with
all you. I'm saying is he got it. He that was for last year was all about him, and then he got a big contract, and the offseason's been all about him. Mm-hmm. And all I would say is, bro, last year was all about you. This contract is all about paying you. And now let's have it all be about us. So let's do what's right for us and not what's right for you. And what's right for us, I look at the football season like, 3 6-game kind of stretches, right?
Okay.
You got weeks 1 through 6, and then you've got weeks 7 through, 13. And then you got week 14 through the end of the year. So you got 2 or 3 games at the end of the year, and then a couple playoff games, if you're lucky, the Super Bowl. And it's like 3 equal stretches. The last stretch you need him for is this one. So and you got fresh backs. Mason just had a great summer. He's the guy who's in rhythm, and you got all these other backs that have played recently. There's no way in hell I'm using him in this first 6 games. I'm just not. I don't care what he says. I don't care how he feels. You're not doing it. You're not playing. Sorry, I'm going with other guys. Sorry. I mean, that's it. Go ahead. When we get to week 13, I was just going to say,
no, totally.
Now, okay, so I'm not playing him in that first 6 weeks. That second stretch from week 7 through week 13, I would play him if I felt I needed him, but I really, if I'm winning games, I would rest him all the way through. Wow. And then I would, in an ideal world, we get to that next window where now it's like week 14. And now I just want to kind of spot him a little bit so I can use him full bore in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Most teams don't have the luxury to be able to do this. The Niners do because of the depth they have.
That's true.
And I would say this, I went and looked yesterday at what running backs are on other teams' practice squads that theoretically the Niners could pluck.
Yeah.
And this list is 10 deep of guys that I really like.
Okay.
I'm going to give you these names.
Love it.
The Chiefs have Imani Bailey. I
Okay.
love Imani Bailey. I think Imani Bailey is one of the most
Tell me about Imani
backs.
Bailey.
He's a 5'10", 215 pound, 3 steps. He's at full speed. He's explosive. He's really, really explosive. He's a small back, but he's just an absolute blur. He's so fast. Then I like Jabari Small, who's a small running back who played behind Jalen Wright at Tennessee, but he's not weak. He's like 5'8", 5'9", but he's like 210 pounds. So he's kind of thick, and he played at Tennessee. Good little running back. He's on the Titans practice squad. Yeah. Dylan Johnson, who was in the national championship game, played for UW, the Mississippi State transfer, drafted by Carolina. He's a big back.
Yeah.
JJ Taylor is a tiny little back who played at New England, who's now with Houston, but I really like JJ. Very athletic, played at U of A. Jonathan Ward is the, I think, Central Michigan back who played with the Steelers, had a great preseason.
He did.
He's a nice player. Michael Carter played, is on Arizona's practice squad. He's probably the most accomplished guy on this list.
No doubt.
Frank Gore's kid is in Buffalo, and I really like Frank Gore's kid. I think Frank Gore's kid would be somebody I would definitely want to pick up.
Okay.
Kevin Harris is a big back from South Carolina who's on New England's practice squad. I really like him.
Okay.
Deneric Prince played at Tulsa. He was on Kansas City's practice squad last year. He's on Miami's this year. And the guy who's my favorite guy on the entire list is the kid who started at Columbia, I believe, in the Ivy League, transferred to South Carolina, Dante Miller. He's a little back, but I mean, he's explosive. I mean, we're talking about 4.3, 5, 4.32, something like that. He runs super fast. He's an incredibly, he was a guy that wasn't drafted. He was signed after the draft because he had some kind of something that made him fall through as far as draft eligibility, but he's just an electric super burner.
He was in this past year's draft.
He was supposed to be in the past year's draft, but then he got ruled ineligible for the draft. But then they made him a free agent after the draft and didn't have him go through the supplemental. And the Giants signed him probably because they had waiver priority. And he's a burner. Wild. I mean, he's a tiny guy, but he is an absolute. I mean, and if you're Shanahan,
100% fell through the cracks with me.
I mean, this guy's so fast. I mean, it's like you watch him and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a difference maker speed wise.
Look at my binder full of prospects here. I don't got him anywhere in here.
Yeah, Dante Miller. Now you just YouTube him and you'll see him. And you'll watch 2 minutes. You'll be like, whoa, this guy's explosive.
Well,
anyway, I would not play.
I like Keyshawn
CMC
Vaughn
in the first. I don't play CMC in weeks 1 through 6.
Wow.
I really don't play him in weeks 6 through 13 unless I absolutely need to. Yeah. I'm dusting him off in week 14 for like 14, 15, 16. I'm sitting him in week 17. So a 3-game regular season, 3-game playoffs, and I want CMC full go on Super Bowl Sunday in the Big Easy. That's my plan.
That's a conservative plan, Larry.
It's very conservative. But it's also they're unique, right? Because they got this depth in the backfield.
We'll find out how. I mean, listen, who's to say? It's Dante Whitner once said, "All I see are winnable games," and they might be in a situation where they don't need them. And they might be in a situation, Larry, if they bring him back too soon, where they don't have him. So there is no right answer here, because at some point he will have to play football. And again, there's no way to test this thing out before you get on the practice field, or I'm sorry, on the playing field and play football. So 2 months off seems okay to me. You're giving him 3 or 4. Fair enough, man. Fair enough. As for guys coming in off the practice squad, I'll say this. It took multiple years to get JP Mason to this point, right? Multiple years to get him to where Kyle Shanahan could trust him to be the back. He was the 3rd string back at the start of camp. They still didn't trust him as much as they trusted Elijah Mitchell. They just couldn't trust Elijah Mitchell to stay on the goddamn football field. Yeah. So the idea that they could just go pluck somebody, maybe, I don't think it's as easy as that, though those were some wonderful names. I'll throw one more thing at you here. Beginning of the season, I talked to Steve Young yesterday on KMBR. He calls September preseason. I still think the games count, so don't count me in on that full theory. But clearly there are coaches, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, probably chief amongst them, who treat the first 4 weeks of the regular season like they're a preseason of sorts. Here's what George Kittle said after Monday night's game. Like I told Christian,
love that guy. He bought me new shoes today.
Let's talk to noted footwear expert George Kittle.
Right.
Like I told Christian, literally the only good thing that came out of him not playing was that our playbook shrinks just a little bit. I'm always a fan of shrinking the playbook. He was saying it like a joke. There's value in that when you're in September. Create the base. And we certainly saw it on Monday, right? That was simple. There was not an ounce of smoke and mirror in that game. That was the 49ers at their most basic mode. It was exceptional, but that was basic 49ers. When you're bringing along a rookie right guard and you're trying to get in, at some point here, Ricky Pearsall, a Jacob Cowing, you're trying to get in. You still got Ronnie Bell, who you still have to treat like a rookie. He played a lot, which was stunning. You have a lot of guys who are just trying to figure this stuff out, right? You want to ease them into it a little bit. A smaller playbook, inside zone, outside zone. Hey, maybe we'll do a flea flicker every now and again. Nothing crazy. Basic stuff. That seems prudent for September. And if Christian McCaffrey's in the game, you don't do that stuff because you got this fun toy. You're not going to just keep it on the shelf. It's Christian McCaffrey. So keep him out. Keep the basic, simple playbook. Have this base form of 49ers football, inside zone, outside zone, situational passing. And now you have something where the entire team can get built up in the process. And it's a fun bit of collateral damage with Christian McCaffrey being out because, again, Kyle can't help himself but to call really cool shit when Christian McCaffrey's in. And he can't help himself but to call basic shit when the other guys are in.
I mean, they got other guys. Just use your other guys. Use your other guys.
It's easy to say until one of those other guys
because
injured.
For Giants fans, let's give them one thing here. Cambiar tweeted this out.
Oh boy.
I
want to hear this. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me. Here we go. Farhan on with Tolbert and Copes.
Alluded earlier to you.
Thrado.
This being a different season. What are the things that you learned this year that A, you didn't expect to learn, and B, that you will have to take into account this offseason that you didn't expect to have to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things that stand out to me. One is, there's, I think, a handful of teams that are in our position that had playoff aspirations that were maybe projected to make the playoffs that have kind of, not reached that standard. They're kind of in around 500, around the periphery of the race. And, the story a lot of times is the same. It's a combination of injuries and underperformance and places you were hoping to get production from, you didn't quite get it from. I think the thing we've got to ask ourselves as we build out this team is, do we need more veteran depth? Because one of the things that we like to do is when we have injuries, call up young players, give them a chance. And really some of our successes this year in terms of Ramos and Fitzgerald were opportunities created by injuries and spots on the roster where we had openings. Those guys have taken those opportunities and run with them. But there are other cases, particularly on the pitching side early in the year, where we went with younger options and really struggled. And so, did we go into this year with enough depth, kind of the high floor type depth that can get you through rashes of injuries without being overly reliant on young players picking up the slack? I think that's, when we look back at, where we got some overperformance, some underperformance and some injuries, the question of whether we had the depth to kind of fill in and keep things going. Because I think when we look at the season, we just see we never really got on that roll where everything was firing on all cylinders. Even at the trade deadline, we talked about how we needed to get on a run somewhere, and we had a couple hints of it, but it never really happened for us. So I think that's going to be the question, like just having a deep enough roster to get through the season and making sure we're breaking in young players, but also can go to veterans when we think that's the right move.
All right, Dieter, what do you think?
What the fuck?
I mean, I have my own thoughts, and I'm going to share them here.
What the fuck is this guy talking about anymore? Just shut the fuck up. Like, he cannot keep his story straight. Every time he publicly speaks, it's a different goddamn agenda. And every 2 weeks, the agenda changes. We don't have enough. That's what this team really needed. More Michael Confortos and Mike Yastrzemskis. What the fuck is he talking about? They traded away veterans at the deadline. They go, oh, we actually don't want Jorge Soler anymore. We don't need a veteran. We're going to go with the young guy. Oh, you know what? Alex Cobb is coming back, and we've put in a lot of work to get him back to where he is, and he's an all-star pitcher for us, but we're going to go with Hayden Birdsong. How about that? And now, a couple weeks later, he's like, you know what? We could have used more veterans. You know what they could really use? A new fucking GM.
Okay. First of all, a couple things. One, the classic loser talk of, man, there are other teams like us. Misery always loves company, right? It's always like, hey, yeah, we suck, but we weren't alone. We weren't alone. There was other teams that suck.
Oh yeah.
To me, that is the ultimate in loser talk. That's the ultimate in loser talk when people or whether it be a GM or a manager or player or the fans of a team, when you start saying how other teams were bad as a defense for your team being bad, it's like other teams are bad too. I mean, it's like, that's bad. I mean, that right there. So the others are like us is just that part just made my skin crawl.
Yeah.
Do we need more veteran depth? First of all, you just need better players, whether they're old, young, or anywhere in between. You need better players. You can go with veterans if your veterans are stars. You can go with kids if your kids are stars, but you can't go with kids if your kids are AA guys parading around and masking themselves as major leaguers. And you definitely can't go. Do we need more veteran depth? What do you think Nick Ahmed was? That was veteran depth, so you didn't have to play Marco Luciano. What do you think Yaz was? That was veteran depth, so you didn't have to play Luis Matos. What do you think Slater was? It was veteran depth that you signed early in the offseason to clog your outfield so that you didn't give Elliot Ramos a legitimate shot until May. I mean, you don't need more veteran depth. You need a new GM and a better vision and great players. Show me where the San Francisco Giants are competing for the best players in the world. They're not competing for the best players in the world in the international market. The Padres and Dodgers are kicking their ass in that department. So they're not competing for the best players there. They're not typically competing for the best players in the amateur draft because they kind of go this low-end college pitcher approach when all the premier guys seem like they're high school hitters and the Giants go college pitching. And then, where are these hitters going to come from if you never draft them? And if you never feel like you ever, have enough pitching depth, it's like, if you're one of these people that believes that you have to develop pitching and then you do, and then you also have a philosophy that you can never have enough pitching, then when do you ever get hitting? If you don't sign free agent hitters, if you don't trade for for hitters, and you don't draft and develop hitters, where do they come from? And that would be my big argument to Farhan is he hasn't done a good job at attracting, cheap power bats, cheap power arms. The A's across the Bay are doing that exact thing with Rooker and some of the arms that they've had. Their closer, what's his name? Mason whatever.
Miller.
They've had, big high-end guys with cheap power arms, cheap power bats, and they're kind of a surprise, a little bit of a surprise considering what they spend. The Giants, I thought, were going to, at least with Farhan, he would be a creative deal maker, but there have been no creative deals. I thought he would do a really good job at annually attracting and pursuing cheap power bats and cheap power arms. It hasn't been the case. They have no direction. The fan base, his biggest weakness is he cannot verbalize what the vision is. So even though he could have the world's greatest plan, and he doesn't, but he also can't verbalize his plan or his direction. He can't verbalize it to the players, so he doesn't sign any players. He can't verbalize it to the clubhouse, so oftentimes there's disconnects and miscommunication with guys that are right under his nose. He can't communicate his vision to the fans. He clearly can't communicate his vision to prospective free agents because he hasn't been able to land any. So Farhan's biggest problem is he's so smart that he can't do basic sales, which is under promise and over deliver. So now he's done the opposite. He's over promised and under delivered. You got a very frustrated fan base. Is he the worst GM in Giants history? No. Has he done some positive things with the farm system to turn it around after Bobby Evans? Yes. Yeah. But the lack of a vision, the lack of a bottom line, the buck stops with me kind of a leader, the Giants miss Sabian. The Giants miss Coletti. They miss that bottom line, the buck stops with me. I'm the guy, not I'm looking over my shoulder. It could be him. It could be Johnson. It could be Johnson's father. It could be Larry. It could be this person. It could be.
Yeah.
It needs to end. It needs to end. I think we need to see a clean sweep with regime change. I think they need to buy out Melvin, buy out Farhan, and go in a different direction. I really do.
I'm with you on clearly the lack of communication. And it would be one thing if he couldn't communicate it, but you could clearly see it. But there's no evidence to any sort of a plan. They're just winging it constantly. And great call by you, Larry, when it comes to Farhan not standing up for himself and making himself the target of both scorn and praise. He has been keen. He's been keen to not hang around the ballpark. He's been keen to. He has to do those shows. He skips out on them all the time. He's been keen to just go under the radar. And you might say, well, that's what analytics guys do, but every fucking baseball GM is an analytics guy now. There's like one or two holdouts that aren't analytics guys. But at a certain point, these analytics guys, they get handed the keys to everything, right? They're not just GMs. They're the director of baseball operations now. And with that title comes a pretty serious responsibility. That's ownership saying to you, hey, you're not just the guy who executes the deals. You're the guy who sets the vision for the entire org, the entire baseball side. You're the owner. Second most important person is director of baseball ops. Maybe the team president who handles the business stuff is tied for second. And Farhan's inability to fill that role with any gravitas is a real problem. And it's evident in their free agencies, no doubt about that. But it's so annoying because you look at an AJ Preller. Well, he's an analytics guy through and through. But he's out there. He's front and center. You like the move? He's the man. You don't like the move? He's the guy to blame. You go down the line of some of these really good teams, their GMs are the stars. And that might suck from a baseball fan perspective, but at least it's good to know that those guys understand the role that they're in. If it's all about the GM or all about the guy making the moves on the roster, then that guy needs to wear it in both directions at all times. And Farhan is so loath to be criticized that he has just gone further and further into the shadows every year. And that's not the job. That's disqualifying for that job. He's a very smart guy. There's no question about that. We keep saying it because it's about the only nice thing we can say anymore. He should just go be an assistant GM or a GM somewhere else. Go handle the day-to-day bullshit.
He's not a GM, man. He's not the front guy. He's a think tanker.
The GM now is the guy who just does the moves and comes up with some cool ideas and is just the day-to-day grunt for the director of baseball operations. And that's what he's actually good at. And he was good at it with the A's. And go and get Forrest or go and get some of these other really good guys and pay him the money. Just go. if you're not going to pay the players as much as you probably should, at least make sure that you have one hell of a front guy. And the Giants are cutting salary in the front office now. I don't understand the direction. And here's
maybe the
worst.
Giants ought to try something new. They're so innovative. Why don't they try to be super innovative? Why
There's
don't they get
innovative
rid of
about them? There's nothing innovative. What they keep saying that. Where's the evidence that they're innovative at all?
What do you mean? They had, the first woman PA announcer, Sherry Davis. Then they had Rennell.
That's not innovative. It's not creative.
Well, I mean,
that's just being open-minded to social constructs.
Yeah,
that's not innovative. That
okay,
innovative is you're creating
they like
ideas.
to think of themselves as forward-thinking and this
No,
and
they
that.
like to think of themselves as socially progressive.
How about this? How about let's, you want to have a fan interaction and this and that. Get rid of the general manager and just have a fan poll.
Do people
voting
even
every day?
Do people
just
even
let the fans
know who the
let the
fuck
Giants
GM
fans
is?
run the team? Let the fans run the team from now on.
They'd
and
run
you
that
just
into the ground.
there you go. How could it be worse? At least it'll be interesting.
It would be interesting. It would be
interesting.
worse.
Let the fans
it would
run
absolutely be worse. I promise you.
I'm not convinced. They haven't made the goddamn playoffs except for 2021. I mean, Farhan is come on. I mean, no playoffs. They keep adding playoff teams, and the Giants keep missing. So come on, Farhan.
They're a fourth place team with the 22nd ranked farm system in baseball. You're not going to get me to say that Farhan Zaidi should keep his job. My point is merely this: who's the actual Farhan Zaidi is the director of baseball operations. The GM of the team is this guy named Pete Priscilla. Has anyone ever heard him speak?
No, he's hiding out.
He's hiding out because his boss is hiding out.
Never seen him. Never seen him.
And they're not. Farhan spends most of his time in Arizona. He's not the front man. He's not the guy.
Let the fans do it. Let the fans do it. Interactive. Put on the scoreboard.
Ground within a month.
Who would you like to see sent down tomorrow? We need an extra starter. Welcome to the 7th inning, Giants fans. Look up on the scoreboard. There is no Farhan Zaidi, but today you are Farhan Zaidi. We have to send somebody down because Bob Smith is coming off the DL tomorrow. Who should it be? Should it be reliever number 1, Taylor Rogers? Do we send out Tyler Rogers and have people clap? Woo! I think it was Tyler Rogers. Wait a second. People were clapping louder for Taylor, but they actually sent out Tyler. It's a huge controversy. What do you think, Dieter? Fan-controlled team.
Well, they wouldn't break even.
Be awesome. Be incredible.
That money would get spent so goddamn fast on the worst fucking players because it would just be immediate gratification theater all day, every day. And that's not how you build a good baseball operation. David Stearns was available. Anyone could have had him. He built himself a consecutive winner in Milwaukee. Anyone could have had him. And the Giants decided, no, we're good with what we got, and we wouldn't spend any money on that kind of a guy anyway. We'll just stick with Farhan. And now David Stearns is with the Mets. The Mets were rebuilding this year. They're effectively the exact same team as the Giants. The Giants were supposed to be a 90-win team. They're effectively the same as a Mets team that sold off everybody and said, we got to eat one. We got to eat a year. The Mets are on equal footing to the Giants, at least in my mind, this season. At least with the Pirates and the Reds, you can say they're in small-ass markets and they're young teams on the up. At least with the Cubs, you could say they got some cheap-ass owners who don't actually – maybe that's the same argument for the Giants. But at least with the Cubs, they got a World Series more recently. You know what I'd love to see you're
more
losing
than anything?
To the poor-ass Diamondbacks in a landslide.
I'd love to see the Giants
that guy.
Go to Billy Beane and say, Billy, come be the general manager and have Billy really call Billy's bluff because Billy has lost his competitive fire. He's sold out for the piece of the pie. So he's got the ownership. So Billy's all about the Bucks at this point. He's not about winning a title. It hasn't been about winning a title for a long time, which is why he took part of the ownership to stay with the A's. That would be so classic if the Giants said, hey,
Billy just wants
how about
to
this?
Do soccer now.
How about don't be all about the ownership and all about money and try to remember when you used to be a GM that dreamt of winning a World Series? How about come over here and rekindle the dream? I bet you anything he would turn them down in favor of the pot of gold that he's got coming as a partial owner of the A's. He would turn them down.
I'm not sure.
Kevin,
I'm not sure you're willing to take that bet. By the way, that he's. What if he says yes, and then you're like, I don't know if this guy's still got his fastball. He might be up here, Jamie Moyer in it.
Yeah, my God, because nobody could make the kinds of incredible moves that Farhan makes. Kevin says, one of my best friends met Farhan at his job. My friend shook his hand and he told him to do better. And Farhan didn't say anything. LOL.
Yeah,
That is kind of funny. Do a better job.
He's petrified of criticism. And it's like,
Oh.
dude, don't become the frontward facing man on a team that people give a shit about. Understand, it's the Peter principle is that you get promoted to your point of incompetence. Case in point, Farhan Zaidi.
We'll finish with one very good Niner text chat. It's a Steve Pekatron. It says 49er defense under Sorensen looks effing fire again. I was insanely happy with how they played and the plays that he called. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. I thought Sorensen called a pretty good game. I really did.
He called a good game. There's no doubt about that. It was basic stuff. I'm not going to write him up as the next great defensive mastermind, but I'll say this about Nick Sorensen. I noticed it in the final 2 weeks of training camp. His defense is organized. That's something I could never say with Steve Wilks. It was organized. It was concise. It was somewhat innovative in the sense of they were trying some stuff out. They were willing to experiment with things that, you might want to run in 2024 as opposed to what Steve Wilks was running, which is stuff that worked in 2005 and doesn't apply to today's game. A lot of Tampa too. Organization is the number one skill set, the prerequisite for being a coordinator. They don't call you coach, they call you coordinator. You need to be able to coordinate. He has the guys organized, understanding what to do, understanding what their assignments are, and it allows them to play light and free. But he's got his work cut out for him as the weeks progress because you're not always going to get a quarterback who just stands in the pocket and refuses to move.
Yeah.
And an offensive coordinator that you're going against who just keeps running his running back into his center's ass.
I think he's the right guy. Time will tell on it for sure.
Time will tell for sure.
Dieter, when do you appear next? When can people check you out next?
Oh, buddy, I'll do a big Vikings 49ers preview tomorrow with my man Jake Hutchinson on the Dieter and Hutch show. We're finding our rhythm, and now Jake's going to Japan, so that rhythm's about to be ruined. So get it in while you can, folks.
Look at that, Jake and his girl going to Japan for a while.
Yeah,
good for Jake,
buddy.
That's Dieter. He's great. Thanks to all of you guys. You guys were great. I'm back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for a live stream with Damon Bruce. I'm also back tomorrow at 10:45 for our second live stream with Chase Sr. Nice. I'll be down in Santa Clara tomorrow talking to Kyle Shanahan in the middle of the day. And then Niners Nightly tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. A lot going on. And, of course, catch me on Saturday as well on KMBR with 49er Forecast, and then, of course, on game day, part of the pregame and postgame show, and then, of course, we'll go live with the Krueger show after the game and do our postgame deal. So,
when you got shit canned for no good reason, did you ever think you'd be working this much again?
Seriously.
I'm worried for your health, buddy. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, seriously. They just said, you know what? This guy wants to be back. Let's just test exactly how much he wants to be back. And we'll.
I hope you signed the long-term contract, and I hope that money was guaranteed because they're trying to kill you.
Yes, exactly. But I will not die.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful.